By Stephen Carroll. Hello.
Hello, Jade.
You've been looking into this minimum wage announcement by President Barack Obama. Who does it affect exactly?
It's quite a small number of people, in fact. The announcement made by President Obama of increasing the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour will only apply to those who are employed under federal contracts. Now, that's about 2 million people in all, but the vast majority of those will already earn over this amount, so it will be quite a small number of people. This move is one by President Obama, which is part of a longer campaign to get Congress to agree to raise the federal minimum wage. Mariam Saab explains.
The first step in the battle for fairer wages. But only federally funded employees stand to benefit, and that's only a fraction of low-wage workers. Currently set at $7.25, Obama is hoping to raise the federal minimum wage to $10.10 by the end of his term in 2016. But progress hinges on bipartisan agreement, as any changes must pass through Congress. And for now, proposals to lift minimum wage for all eligible workers has stalled. But even if the US were to raise the minimum wage, it would still fall short of France and the United Kingdom. US lawmakers are concerned about the impact of such a change on growth, worried that higher labour costs may make investors turn elsewhere. But with job growth up and state unemployment benefit claims down, the labour market has shown signs of improving. To help matters, the Federal Reserve says it will hold interest rates near zero at least until the jobless rate drops from its current 6.7% to 6.5%.
All right, we're going to stay in the US, but a bit of a different story. Authorities in New York are trying to work out how to regulate Bitcoin.
It's been one of the consistent issues with this digital currency, Bitcoin, is that nobody regulates. It's no central bank and no government. And yesterday we saw Charlie Shrem, who runs a Bitcoin exchange in New York, be charged with conspiring to launder money connected to the digital currency. Now, the New York Department of Financial Services held a public meeting on Tuesday to discuss how they might be able to control Bitcoin better. They're discussing the idea of issuing bit licenses, which would regulate those who trade in the currency in an effort to better control it. Now, Bitcoin's value has exploded in recent months. One Bitcoin is worth around $825, hence the interest in it. But that volatility in price is another reason why the authorities want to have better control of it.
There is not currently a robust regulatory regime to help spot red flags and root out illegal activity. Right now, the regulation of virtual currency industry is still akin to a virtual Wild West. That lack of regulation, however, is simply not tenable for the long term, and I think it's already starting to change.
And after the battering that emerging market currencies have been suffering in recent days, Turkey's central bank has decided to raise interest rates in an effort to bolster the lira. They've raised their overnight lending rate from 7.75% to 12%, a significant hike. And similarly, its borrowing rate has gone up from 3.5% to 8%. This after the lira plunged to record lows against the dollar on Monday. It has strengthened somewhat since that decision, but just part of these ongoing efforts to try to bolster emerging economies that are suffering on the markets.
Right, there's been a major issue affecting the markets this week as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, the stock market's hit too. More optimism around, though, it has to be said, after that decision by Turkey and by India yesterday as well. Here in Europe, it's a significantly positive start to the day's trading. As you can see, all the main indexes up significantly in the green. The banks performing well. Commerzbank in Germany, Bankia in Spain, both up over 2%. Interestingly, the luxury fashion brand in London, Mulberry, is down by about 22% after reporting poor Christmas sales. Mulberry, one of the real successes of the retail industry in recent times, hit hard there by that poor sales we're seeing, of course, across retailing in the UK. Over in Asia, as you can see, a positive day too. The Nikkei closed up 2.7%, and shares in Hong Kong and the Hang Seng up over 1%.
All right, lots of company news around today. Take us through some of the highlights.
We'll start in Japan, where profits at Nintendo have fallen by 30% in the last 9 months. The firm's blaming the problem on poor sales of its Wii U console. It's now expecting to sell just 2.8 million units in this financial year, as opposed to its previous forecast of 9 million. Earlier this month, Nintendo warned it would lose more than $240 million in the year to the end of March because of the Wii U. And revenues at the internet giant Yahoo fell 6% in the last 3 months as prices for online advertising fell. Earnings were hit too by slowing growth of the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba, which Yahoo owns almost a quarter of. Profits at Alibaba rose an impressive 58% over the period, but that was less than in the previous 3 months. That hit Yahoo's shares in after-hours trading down around 3%. And the Swiss pharmaceutical giant Novartis has warned of lower sales this year due to increased competition from generic brands. The drug maker lost its patent on the popular blood pressure medicine Diovan last year. It expects that generic rivals may now knock as much as $3 billion off its sales figures in 2014.
All right, just finally, it seems the Chinese has stolen an important title from the French.
That's right. According to research from the Wine and Spirits Association VinExpo, the Chinese are now the biggest consumers of red wine in the world. Their survey shows the Chinese drank almost 1.9 billion bottles of red wine, up 130% in the last 5 years. Now, VinExpo says that's not just down to increased wealth in China, but also down to the fact that red culturally is a colour of luck and good fortune in China, which might explain why they drink more white than white wine. But there's good news for France in this as well, of course. 5.6 billion euros worth of French wine was sold to China in 2012, and China is the world's biggest importer of Bordeaux wines. So if they're drinking more, it does mean more money for those French producers.
Good news, of course. Maybe the French need to up their drinking game, though.
Perhaps.
I'm sure we can help them in that. Thanks very much for that, Stephen Carroll. All right, it's time to look at what's grabbing headlines across the world of that.